Wake up!
The games are over, and it's time for our guys to break it all down. After all, it's Sunday. What else do you have to do?
Nothing.
This is your Morning After Podcast with Hanson, Scotty, and Lloyd Cole on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's the Morning After Podcast. Hans Olsen, Scott Garrard, Lloyd Cole will join us here momentarily. Hans, we got a text about 15 minutes ago from Lloyd who said, just getting my morning coffee. And then we waited and waited, but apparently that coffee takes a little bit to brew, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he said, you guys are going to need to wait. I'm getting my coffee.
The morning after waits for nobody.
Yeah, our listeners, our 55 people need. Okay, so after a BYU loss, we'll probably lose 10 or 15 listeners. So our 40 people, they need this podcast.
We're here for people. Come on.
So when Lloyd joins us, we'll give him a hard time and figure out what's going on there.
Boy, Hans, do we have a lot to talk about. Let's start with your game yesterday in Lawrence, Kansas. Set the scene. I mean, the place looked like it was rocking, sell out, probably a good amount of BYU fans, and crazy game, back and forth. Unfortunately, one too many interceptions down the stretch in this bad boy.
One too many interceptions, just too many turnovers. The scene was as good as college football gets. It was just another sellout, another packed stadium, two more undefeated teams, like just everything that you could want. It wasn't as crazy as the Arkansas environment, but it was really good. And things started really good, Scotty.
Yeah.
First half looked awesome. Everything was rocking and rolling. And you get out of that first half, I think it's 17-14 BYU, and you're just feeling pretty good about how the game's flowing. And, it's interesting because at the half, I'd watched all three of Kansas's games, but I spent more time with their Illinois game and their Nevada game. Their halftime adjustments with their corners are always good. Whether it's to back off and a little soft or it's to hard press and be a little more physical. And at halftime, because I had seen a lot of the throws that Slovis was making are their lane throws. So if I'm a corner or if I'm a safety and I get any type of tip of where a receiver's lined up or where the quarterback's eyes are or whatever I'm reading as a corner and safety, if I get those tips, I can jump those lanes. And I was saying it at half. I'm like, you got to be really careful with some of those throws because you're throwing across the field, you're flipping it to the outside. That's pick six area. And these corners can be really aggressive and really good. And they came out in the second half and started jumping the routes and started to make things really difficult for BYU. And it was a bummer. It was a bummer because you went from an amazing half and feeling really good to feeling like you couldn't do much right. And then Kansas's offense looked out of sorts in the first half. They had some moments, but they looked out of sorts. Not in the second half. It was like Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels and the whole crew, Highshaw, that other running back.
Yeah.
The whole crew just shifted it into gear and figured it out. And they went on some lengthy drives and made it really tough. But you're right, man. It was an incredible environment. But obviously losing 38-27 is just not what BYU fans wanted.
Jalen Daniels only throws for 130 yards, but and on 14 of 19 passing, 3 touchdowns. But it was the ground game, 221 yards of rushing. You mentioned Nil with 91 yards. BYU, on the other hand, a grand total, if you take off the sacks and the TFLs, a grand total of 9 yards rushing. LJ Martin, 11 carries, 28 yards. Smith, 4 carries for 10 yards. Second consecutive game. You haven't seen anything from Aiden Robbins. And it's just we've been bemoaning the fact that BYU can't run the football, and you put a lot of pressure on Keaton Slovis. He throws the pick 6, and then another pass that looks like it might be there, but just woefully underthrown. Am I off base on that one?
On which one?
The second interception?
Yeah. Let's start with the running game that you brought up for BYU, because I think that might be the biggest issue for BYU right now. There's alignment things. You saw there was another covered receiver.
Yeah, I did.
So that's 4. That's 1 every game. And it was tough because it makes you ask some tough questions to Kalani in the postgame. And I had to ask a couple of tough questions of why another covered receiver. They said, yep, got to get that figured out. I said, 9 yards, what's going on with the offensive line? He said, yep, got to get that figured out. Kalani hits that thing head on. He really does. He accepts the questions, and Scotty, you've been doing this a lot of years. Those aren't fun questions to ask. Nobody wants to ask that.
Nope. No, sir.
They're not fun. But I think that Blake Anderson is good at answering the tough questions. Kalani's good. He's like, look, man, this is where the rubber hits the road a little bit, and got to start getting things fixed and figured out right now. So, here's a couple things. Scotty, when you make a mistake and it's still a win, sometimes those mistakes get swept under the rug a little bit. When you make a mistake and it results in a loss, those mistakes get a lot uglier and they're not fun.
Yeah. So
these mistakes have now come in a loss, and a very unacceptable loss, because at the start of the season, you're 3-0 and you're making those mistakes, and you're like, okay, fine. It was only 40 yards of rushing, but it was still a win. So relax. Or, there was some alignment issues, and there was a covered receiver, and there was some issues going on with mistakes, mental errors, but we won. So relax. When you lose, it's not relax anymore. It's all right. Well, this better not carry over to Cincinnati. This better not carry into TCU and into Texas Tech, because right now, I think BYU's got a 3-game stretch in front of them with a bye week in between Cincinnati and TCU that they could get to 3-1 in conference play. And that's totally different than it used to be, Scotty.
For sure.
Because it used to be a 1 loss in Independence, and it was like, all right, whatever. But now you could get to 3-1 in conference play over the next 4 weeks with a bye week in there, and things are different. So it just needs to shift into gear, and they need to figure out some of these alignment issues. There was one play where it was a screen pass, and a tight end and a receiver came back to the screen and kind of bumped into each other. It was 2 guys fighting to the same screen. And I don't know if I've ever seen that. I can't remember ever seeing 2 guys, each of them thinking that the screen was coming to them. So
that is a first.
Have you ever seen that?
No, I've not seen that.
2 guys fought back and hit each other. And it was like, uh-oh. There was a 3-minute where everybody was on the sidelines, and it's critical moment for BYU. They've got to get they just got I think they just got a touchdown. They were going for a 2-point conversion. They needed every timeout that they had because there was like 8 minutes left, and they were going to be down by 7 if they got the 2-point conversion. And I think that they came out of the 3-minute. They were in misalignment. They had to call a timeout because they couldn't get lined up right out of the 3-minute. And it's like, oh man, no, you can't burn that timeout. And they did. And that left them with 1 timeout and 8 minutes left. And then Kansas goes on a 6.5-minute drive and just burns clock and kicks a field goal to extend it by 2 scores. It backed BYU up. BYU ended up with I can't remember when the timeout was taken, but BYU ended up just going to kick the extra point, and then they were down by 8. So they, in that final drive, they needed to score and get 2, but Kansas went down there, ate the clock, and kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that I'm sure that's maddening, and Kalani's going to work on. I know he'll work on. So there's a lot of room for them to improve the running game, buddy. I think it's more the offensive line at this point than it is the running back.
I'll dig through the game a little bit, and because I was up in the press box getting ready for the Utah State game, and so I had it on, and I was switching back between that and the Utah game. So I'll dig into it a little bit closer, and obviously have a more educated opinion coming up tomorrow. But just a couple things I wanted to ask you about. Kingsley was out for a good chunk of the game, but he came back in, correct?
He did, right at the end of the game.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah, at the end of the game. So it was good to see him back. Bywater makes me nervous.
Yeah, that's the next question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, Ben Bywater makes me really nervous. Sounds like he was having a pretty tough time on the sideline. According to our sideline guy, Mitch Juergens, it sounds like Ben was in a good amount of pain, and he didn't know exactly what was wrong with him, but that makes me nervous because losing Ben Bywater would be unacceptable. He's so dang good. And then they lost Parker Kingston.
Yeah.
With that, a lot of people are kind of wondering if that was targeting or. Let me give my take on that really quick, Scotty.
Sure.
Because that's become a pretty hot topic. So Parker Kingston gets the fly sweep off the right side. And you've got some blockers, some receivers that are blocking on the left side. So he was trying to get to the outside of that blocking. Kansas corner named Kobe Bryant sees the fly sweep, reads it early, comes out of a drop coverage, and comes flying up the field. And you see Parker Kingston in slow motion. You see him. He sees him at the last minute, but it was the last minute. And Parker was running pretty upright. So Parker starts to lower his helmet just a little bit. And Kobe Bryant comes in, and he forces his left shoulder forward, and he definitely goes at Parker Kingston and hits him hard. And the ball comes loose, and Kobe Bryant scoops and scores. So this is my take on it. And I always try to put myself in the other shoes. Like if that would have been Ben Bywater hitting, I don't know, a high shot on the fly sweep. I try to put myself in the shoes of, okay, that was a really good hit. That's a big moment for a team. That's a great touchdown. Don't take it away from him. So this is what I think should have happened. There's no reason to not take a look at it just for the safety of the kid. Just say, okay, touchdown's good, under review for targeting. That's fine to do that. And then go and just look at it and see, okay, did his helmet contact his helmet? Did he launch with intent? Was the ball carrier, was he unaware? Was it a blindside hit? and go through the sets of rules and just see if it's targeting or if it's helmet to helmet. What it looked like for me in the slow-mo, that he put his shoulder in, Kingston saw it the last minute. It wasn't blindside. It was just a good hit. It's a big hit, and it's probably a hit that you want to take away from college football or any football because it's causing concussions. And Kingston was gone the rest of the game, and that was a big blow for BYU. But at the very least, I just would like a review because I don't think that hurts anything. No. And then you could get on the loudspeaker and you could say, after further review, ball carrier was aware this was not a blind side. The helmets did not collide. Whatever you want to say to kind of explain, but just take a look at it for the safety of the kids. That's all I'd want.
We've seen them review for less.
Hey, hi Lloyd.
Hey.
Oh.
I've been here the whole time.
That's not
true. I've actually been here for about 20 minutes of
we've been rolling
Kansas' opening monologue.
We've been rolling for 15 minutes and 29 seconds, and you were not here for all
everything that Hans said. I kept waiting to break in. I'm like, no, he's rolling. Let him go, I guess.
How's the Folgers?
No Folgers here, pal. I'm like, maybe I can go. No, he's still got something good here to say. I like what he's saying.
Okay, this is fair. This is fair. Lloyd.
The thing is, it's like it depends on the angle that you see of that hit. By the way, like I'm sure you guys have seen it on social media, like because you got BYU fans that are irate about it, and there's many different angles on it. Like the angle there's like a still frame that's from back from like back of the end zone roughly, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like targeting right there. But then if you watch it from the side, it looks like he leads with his shoulder. So like it depends on the angle, but it's definitely. I mean, we've seen them. Call. Let's review this for targeting on way less.
Yeah, the initial hit, guys. Just from my angle, the initial hit looked like he led with his shoulder, and that's why I didn't go crazy in the broadcast because it just looked like Kingston saw it at the last second and looked like Kobe dropped his shoulder and went right through him.
And was it a blindside hit?
No.
Kind of, not really, but kind of, because the guy, he didn't see it coming because the way he came around the lineman, the offensive lineman, it was like all of a sudden he just popped up out of nowhere and he popped him quick. So, but no, I mean, not really a blindside though.
No, I can't call that a blindside because he's a active ball carrier and his eyes were forward. And Kobe Bryant did come up quick. I mean, look, that was a quick converge.
Yeah.
But I just want to take a look at it. That's all.
Not too much to ask.
That's just review it. And if you do see that it's inside that targeting rule, then do the right thing. I at one point I thought we were trying to make this safer, but if we're not making it safer, then that's fine. Let's just tell the kids it's not any safer, and you're going to end up having to drink food through a straw at an older age, and don't worry about your concussions again. I don't know. All
right, let's shift gears. Lloyd, the floor is yours. I don't think Kyle Whittingham can't. There isn't a more Kyle Whittingham game than what we saw yesterday. Frank Dolce was calling the Utah State game over on KJazz, and he and I were chatting a little bit before the game up in Logan, and I'm like, if Kyle Whittingham could draw up a perfect game, it might be what we saw yesterday, where it's just defense, special teams, a punter who was just bombing the ball like crazy, and let your defense just shine. And that's pretty much what we had yesterday. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing. If you went to that Utah game, I wouldn't be upset if you wanted your money back because that looked boring as hell. But at the end of the day, it's a Utah W, and that's frankly all that matters. And Nate Johnson comes in and gets the start. We all kind of thought Wednesday, Thursday that it was going to be Cam and he was going to go. And then something happened. As you mentioned, Hans, this is why you listen to Hans Olsen. Nate Johnson gets the start. Cam Rising out again. And after a pick six to start the game, Utah just settles in and does what Utah does. Plays ball control offense, adds a few more points, and then tries to shut you down defensively. And Lloyd, I thought it was all on display yesterday for the Utes. There's no such thing as ugly win. I'm not downplaying what Utah did. I'm just saying that was Utah in a nutshell right there, and they come out with a big W against UCLA.
It was watching Morgan Scalley. In fact, the whole focus of the game, watching it, was the battle of Morgan Scalley versus Chip Kelly. Like, I think Morgan Scalley got more FaceTime, definitely more FaceTime than Kyle Whittingham. That's what the storyline was. It was the back and forth battle. And I'll tell you what, having Carini Reed back in that lineup was obvious, and that started right from the get go as he gets a pick six on the very first play of the game. And takes it to the house. It looked just like that Lander Barton one from the game before, and now that's their second pick six of the season. They've now had 21 straight seasons of having a pick six, which is remarkable. But so you have Carini Reed who does that. He has 9 total tackles, 4 solo, a half tackle for a loss, and you think, that guy, wow, he must be the defensive MVP of the game, right? You're wrong. Jonah Elliss had himself a game. Dude had 10 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. That defense was something spectacular. I think it's time to start having that conversation of, is this by chance possibly one of Morgan Scalley and Kyle Whittingham's best defenses ever? Like, this defense it's up there. And don't get me wrong, they've got a lot to still prove in the Pac-12 because they're going to see something a lot more. But it's kind of what Hans talked about most of the week. This defense is probably going to twist up, this freshman quarterback in Dante Moore, and boy, did they twist him up! Like, they put him in his place.
If you would have told me, Lloyd, that Jonah Elliss would have more sacks than Nate Johnson would have rushing yards, that's a true stat. Jonah Elliss had more sacks than Nate Johnson had rushing yards. And I can't even. I'm just looking. He ended up with, as you mentioned, 3.5 sacks, but he put another.
By the way, I didn't notice it like that. That is that is a great stat, Hans.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this.
That is crazy.
But he ends up throwing another couple TFLs on there, and that might be one of the best games we've seen from a Utah defensive lineman since, going back to maybe Nate Orchard, or, when you're talking about 5 TFLs, we'll have to go back and find the last defensive lineman for Utah that went 3.5 sacks on 5 TFLs in a game. That's old school type. Like, that's Nate Johnson, Paul Kruger like.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah, that's huge. Dude's going to be. I can't imagine he's not. But dude probably should be Pac-12 player of the game or Pac-12 player of the week. Guy was phenomenal.
Oh, he'll. I don't know what else other people did across the conference, but I have a hard time thinking that's not going to happen. And there was one play, Lloyd, where he just. It was just a straight bull rush, and took the offensive lineman and just threw it right into the quarterback's lap. And got the sack. It was as impressive of a just, there's sometimes a defensive lineman, you do the rip, you do the spin, you just beat a guy just with sheer speed and athleticism. This was just brute force trauma to get the sack, and just sitting back and being like, whoa, holy smokes. And, we talked about, Peppa and Tafuna, and we talked about all these defensive players that we knew were going to be big. But in the leading up to the season, we didn't talk a lot about Jonah Elliss, but boy, we sure should have, because this guy is just putting on a show right now.
I remember when I got 6 TFLs in a game to set BYU's all-time single-game TFL record.
Do you have a honk sound effect?
I don't. I mean,
dang it!
I don't know where I was going with that. I just
There you go, Scott. There's something you need to add to your little repertoire.
All right.
Got a car crash for me, but no honk. Okay, gotcha.
I remember Fort Collins. You were on the road for that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on the road.
Colorado State.
Yeah, and I think I had a block punt and a scoop. I don't think I scored, but I think I blocked the punt and got it to the 1 yard line.
Whoa! I've never heard of the block punt before.
Oh yeah.
Wow!
I nearly scored off a block punt that I took to the 1 yard line. I think it was.
Did you fall? Did you fall, or did they get you?
Well, of course they got me, Lloyd.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you fell. I didn't know if you got so excited, like you just started almost like wheezing as you get like so excited.
Arms
Look,
were waving.
I don't want to make this about me.
Let's not. Yeah, but you do because you brought it up.
But
hey, were there like fixable problems with the offense? Because 7 points came from the offense, right?
Yeah, 7 points, and that came, by the way, they finally got a little bit of a rhythm towards the end of the first half, and were able to punch it in right about, I think it was like about the 1 minute mark. But to be honest with you, I would say that UCLA defense, they're decent. They're pretty good. They're athletic. They're fast. To be honest, it was two freshmen. It was two. In fact, they looked the exact same. They looked deer in the headlights. One, I will say, I know Kyle Whittingham is probably ate a bunch of Tums last night because he had some anxiety with the amount of times he put the ball on the ground a few times again.
Yeah, he did.
I think he lost one fumble, if I remember right, or did he get them both back?
No, I think he lost one.
I think he lost. He did lose one, and it was early. But that defense was so dang good that it didn't matter. But you saw all of a sudden, as soon as he started out, it was like, okay, we're going to run this ball and we're going to run it, even if it's running with you. But they were able to. You just saw they completely. I felt like they lost the faith a little bit in. Well, I won't say they lost the faith. They knew their defense was good enough that if they could, it felt like probably about when, halfway through that second quarter, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what, if they can get one more score, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, it felt like they were going to win this.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we mentioned.
It felt like they were good. There was no chance, and they shouldn't even scored that touchdown. I mean, you'll hear I don't know if you had a chance to hear Kyle Whittingham yet, but on that third, they had them 3rd and 26, and there was an illegal substitution that Kyle Whittingham mentioned in the post game, and it was they didn't have a chance to sub out, and they broke they ended up getting it to 4th and 7, and then they had a huge play. To the running back, I'm going blank, not Steele, but the other guy. Anyways, but they should have had him stop. They shouldn't have had a score. They would have had him like 4th and 20 4th and 20 something. So it was
TJ Harden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, as soon as they got up those 2 scores, they just took the air out of the game, and it just was like, yeah, you're not coming back on this defense. And we're going to make sure the offense doesn't turn it over. We're just going to play it safe. I mean, like I said, it was just a Kyle Whittingham game. Like, I got 2 scores. I've got a defense that's playing out of their mind. And we've got a good special teams unit. So and Utah punted it 8 times in that game. So it's like, and again, I don't want it to come across like this was a winning, it's a winning formula for Kyle Whittingham when he has that kind of defense. And it's a smart thing to do. Look, I've got a quarterback who's inexperienced. I'm not going to force him to do anything that could put this game in jeopardy. So we're just going to play it safe and win this game. And that's exactly what they did. And right now, even if Cam comes back, Cam's going to be a little rusty. You have the best defense in the Pac-12 by a mile. So just chill, do your thing, and don't put your defense in a bad situation. And that's exactly what they did time and time again. You're right. There was that one fumble by Nate Johnson, but even then Utah was able to get right off the field again. And it was a spectacular performance.
That UCLA had was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It was, they had that 3 and outs was just every time. That defense was, like I said, they were so good.
I didn't listen.
My thought is,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scotty.
I was just going to say, was there an update on Jaquindon Jackson? Because I know that he got banged up pretty good in that game. Lloyd, did you hear anything afterwards?
No, there wasn't an update on that, but he did. He limped off the field, and then he went into the old tent, into the locker room.
Oh, locker room.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he went into the locker room. Yeah, and I was like, I don't think he's coming back, and he didn't. And it sounds like that they have got a little platoon, not including Chris Curry right now, because Chris Curry is still trying to come back, even though you saw him against Weber State. He's not 100%. He wasn't out there. He didn't take any reps. And so you saw but he did say that he's just he's dealing with that ankle sprain, and it's day to day essentially. I think Jaquindon is trying to do what he can. You saw he had a nice run that was like a 16-yarder. But it was the reason he was able to do that was because he was able to run straight through a hole. If it required a cut of any sort, he can't cut. And I think we've started to see that even against Weber State. He can't cut. It's a high ankle sprain, and it's something that's going to hamper him all season long unless he can get some rest. And I don't know when that's going to happen. They might need to, just go with Glover, and hopefully you get Curry back and see if you can't get him healed up. But I don't know. You tell me, Hans, is that something you're just going to have to deal with the whole season? I don't know. I don't know how he's going to get back 100%. I just don't know if that happens in a season.
With the high ankle?
Right.
Yeah, I had one high ankle. I had a severe high ankle my redshirt freshman year, and it took a straight 6 weeks of being off the ankle because I was just a redshirt freshman. I was not a real important piece. I took 6 weeks, got off the ankle. When I got back on the ankle, I was just mediocre. My ankle didn't feel good until the following spring.
Jeez.
That's how long it took me.
Yeah.
And I think 2 days after my high sprain, it might be the most pain I've ever felt in my life. Now, my torsion was definite. Was that a good time, Scotty?
No, you can. No. Hey, look, we can get loose on a Sunday. We can talk about Pac-Man if you want. It's all good.
Sure. Bring up Pac-Man. Oh man, I didn't even know we were going to get there today. It must be Sunday morning.
But I'm telling you right now, I think it's the most pain I've ever felt in my life. 2 days after that high sprain. So Lloyd, to your point, it was 6 weeks off the ankle, and then it just didn't feel better until the following spring. It was so much freaking pain. But
1 3/4 over here.
Yeah.
But can Glover be the guy if he needs to be?
We had he had some runs. He had 25 carries for 86 yards.
Yeah.
3.4 average. So he actually had some moments. He's been interesting to watch because you've heard I've been high on him. I think he can be that next great back. But he, for some reason, he takes that first hit and he can't stay on his feet at times. But I saw times in that game where he did stay on his feet. He broke some tackles. He has that body, that low body. I feel like could be really good. And if he can learn to take some, bounce off some tackles and break some tackles, then he really is your future. I mean, is he as good as Jaquindon is when he's 100% right now? Probably not. Jaquindon, he's special, and I think he could have some. Right now, he could have a future in the NFL, but he obviously needs more reps as a running back. But I think Glover could potentially be that guy. I've been thinking he could be that for a long time. It just hasn't happened. But you did. It was interesting. We talked about this in the post game, and how hard is it be? We talked about how the up and down of was Cam Rising going to play or was he not going to play during the week? How difficult is that, Hans, when you're Nate Johnson trying to prepare for a game, not knowing if you're starting or not starting, and it sounded like Cam was getting a lot more reps during the week.
Well, according to Coach McBride, yeah. Coach Max, what did Coach Max say, guys? He said that
he guaranteed
Cam was taking. He guaranteed it, and he said Cam was taking half.
He put his money where his mouth is too. That'll be an interesting conversation on Friday.
Yeah, that'll be strange.
Awkward.
And honestly, guys, I really was. I was going off what I saw with Weber State. There's no reason you don't play Cam Rising for a half in Weber State if you're going to play him in the game against UCLA. And that's what it came down to for me. That's why I put my feet in the ground and said, no, I'll take that bet. Because I've seen this before, and I know that's how you manage your quarterback. And when they didn't play him against Weber State, that told me that you're not going to play him. And Coach McBride, he knows that Cam Rising was doing what Lloyd was just talking about. He was practicing with the ones. He said it. So, yeah, Lloyd, it's a problem. If you're Nate Johnson, you're thinking, well, it's not my game. This is no longer my offense. I got to stay ready. I'm sure I've got a package that I'm going to still run or two because I think you'll do that all year with Nate.
Kyle Whittingham said he's got 75% of the offense. In the postgame, he said he's got 75% of the offense down. Nate Johnson does.
Oh.
But it didn't. Watching that game, I don't think I wouldn't say he's comfortable with 75% of it.
Yeah. You know what?
My question is though, guys. So, okay, it's Kyle Whittingham win, Kyle Whittingham style win, but you got Oregon State, which Oregon State lost 38-35 to Washington State.
Yeah, they got boat race pretty good.
Crazy. But at some point, you are going to need offense. At some point, you're going to have to put 28 on the board. Don't you think? With the offenses that they're going to see?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, that defense is special. It might be their best, but you need to get something. You're going to have to. You can't be comfortable with only 7 points on offense. Like that's not what you want to. I mean, this isn't the Ravens of 2001.
Although it's close.
It might be the college. It might be the college football version of that. Honestly,
it may be.
But I mean, let's be honest here. What other team in the country can go 4-0 with the schedule that Utah had against a Florida team that was ranked?
Man, that's impressive.
Against Baylor, you throw in an FCS team in Weber State, and then against UCLA. You went 4-0 in that stretch without your starting quarterback, without so many key players on defense, without probably an NFL-bound tight end. And to go undefeated, I don't care about how many points you scored. I don't care how you did it. All that matters is a W. I mean, this needs to be a little bit of a Utah and Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley appreciation moment, because that is phenomenal that they've been able to do that with essentially rolling out a JV roster from time to time.
That's sick. That is sick to think of that. To think that they gave 11 points to Florida, 13 points to Baylor, 7 to Weber, and 7 to UCLA. That's sick. Guys, this really is. Yeah. It's impressive. You're right, Scotty. It is. This is a Utah appreciation moment. because that is, oh man, that's big time. That defense, and doing it with their second stringers a lot of time. You lose Crean and Reed.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. I had the Utah State game last night. That was I tell you what, Lagoon doesn't have a roller coaster that could prepare you for what we saw last night. Aggies down 31-7 at one point. It was 31-14 at halftime. It was 24-7, then 31-7, then 31-14. Utah State rallies, ties it up at 38, and had a couple of drives where they could have gone down and taken the lead. The offense just fought like crazy to get themselves back in this game. Defense played lights out in the second half. They give up a late touchdown. It's 45-38. And let me just, before we talk about the negative, Hands, and I know, look, you're in that area. You watched McKay Hillstead. You know people, like we're big fans of Will Snowden. Will Snowden's been talking about how great McKay Hillstead's going to be. He gets his first start last night, and once things start to settle in a little bit, he played a phenomenal game. I mean, this kid is going to be a future superstar. And I understand it. They're going to, people might say, well, you're the Utah State guy. I get it. But there's a couple throws he made last night. There's one that I'm going to try to find a link for you to see, Hands, where he threw into double coverage into the end zone, where he threaded the needle between two defensive backs and threw a touchdown. He had a couple bombs where he hit the guy in stride. He was flat out dealing. But he is still a freshman, and he's going to make some freshman mistakes. And when Utah State was down 45-38 with about 3 minutes left, started a drive, got all the way down to the James Madison, I want to say 6-yard line, and rolls out right, was under heavy pressure, and rolled out right, did the cardinal sin for quarterbacks, throwing back late against the grain, and was picked off at the goal line. And that ended that drive. Utah State forced a 3-and-out, got the ball back at the James Madison 48-yard line with about 43 seconds left, didn't have a timeout, and his first pass was a little high. This one I'm not going to put on him. Wide receiver had the ball go off his hands. It was intercepted, and so he throws 2 interceptions on his last 2 passes. So Utah State ends up losing a heartbreaker, 45-38. But they fought like crazy getting back in that game. James Madison's a good team. They beat Virginia on the road. They're a good squad, but Utah State probably should have won that game had they not just had all these first quarter issues. They've been outscored in the first quarter in their first 4 games, 60-7. Let me say that again, 60-7 in the first quarter. If you take away their first quarters, they're dominating teams. But, boy, they just can't seem to get things figured out early in the game. Defense has got a lot of issues. But McKay Hillstead's going to be great, folks. That's a true freshman. He was playing at Sky Ridge last year, and now he's out dealing for Utah State. This kid's going to be something special. But, yeah, there was a couple mistakes down the stretch. Offensive line needs to get a little bit of help. They gave up a lot of pressure against a really good front 4 for James Madison. Utah State's now 1-3. I still feel like they have a chance to really go on a run here, but they're running out of time. They got to get things fixed pretty quick.
James Madison, by the way, is pretty. They should have beat him, but James Madison that's a pretty good team, and they beat Bucknell 38-3, Virginia 36-35, Troy 16-14. But that's a team that every year they go, typically punch some blue blood of some sort, or a big name type school or whatever in the mouth. They do it every year. Yeah. And so but I was surprised to see, and when they were down 31-7, when Utah State was, I was like, wow, what just happened? Are they that good? And it was good to see, I will say it was, I got to imagine, no, Blake Anderson's not happy about the loss, but to see his team fight back and scrape and claw their way back in that game, and behind a freshman quarterback has got to be like, okay, I think we got something we can cook with here.
Yeah. And it's one of those games where, again, you want to, and we talked to Blake for a good chunk after the game and post game, and those are the emotions you go through. It's like, all right, we're fired up. There's a lot to build on, but then again, it's like, okay, well, we're 1-3. You got to be better than this. This team has a higher standard than that, and so you want to be excited and applaud your team and applaud your quarterback for making great calls or for playing really well, but then also, you got to take the kid to task a little bit, and it's got to be a learning moment. Like, you can't make that throw on the goal line in that kind of a situation. You just can't do it. Right. And so, he's a freshman. You love him up. You tell him he did great. And then you also say, hey, you do that again, I'm going to kick your butt, because you just can't do that. But they lose that game by 3 touchdowns if McKay Hillstead doesn't play. I mean, it's that simple. That kid made some great throws, did some incredible things. The future's crazy bright for him. And Utah State, I think the more they settle in, the better they're going to be. They just got to get off to a better start. It was, I want to say, total yardage after the first quarter was 180 for James Madison and negative 22 for Utah State in total yardage.
Oh, jeez.
Their first 9 plays, 5 of them were TFLs. And I mean, and James Madison came into this game one of the sack leaders and TFL leaders in the country. Utah State ran 9 plays. 5 of them were tackled for losses. But then when you look at the final yardage for the game, James Madison had 506 and Utah State had 500. So essentially they were able to put up 522 yards of total offense in the second, third, and fourth quarter. So they flipped the switch. You just can't. You just.
Holy cow!
You just got to figure out how to dial it in quicker.
That is like a lagoon ride, man.
Yeah.
That is crazy swings and wild numbers. I just wonder, with the interceptions and the turnovers with these young quarterbacks, you do have to be patient. You've got to bite your tongue a little bit. You'll take them back to the coaching room. You coach them up as much as you can. But I got to imagine that Blake's probably feeling the heat. I'm sure Coach Anderson's probably feeling the heat. He's feeling the pressures that he's got to get this thing cooking. But it sounds like McKay is just a mistake or two away, and this team's a first quarter away from putting together 3 or 4 wins potentially.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the thing. You can go glass half full. You can go glass half empty. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at this. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What matters is you're 1-3, and you got to find a way to fix it. And they go to UConn this weekend, a long road trip back east, which I am really, really looking forward to. That'll be fun.
That sounds pleasant.
Yeah, I know, right? Before we wrap up, just a couple news and notes. Prime got it handed to him pretty good. How about Oregon making a statement like that, saying, all right, we're done with this circus. We're just going to put the finishing touches on this. They just absolutely annihilate Lloyd. Oregon makes a big statement by taking Colorado behind the whooping shed.
Yeah, and Dan Lanning, in fact, we may have to play a montage of Dan Lanning comments because he had comments at the front of in the pregame, and he had comments at halftime. I mean, at halftime, he said, I hope all those Colorado fans have been sitting here watching them leading up to are still watching. And post game, and Coach Prime, you know what? He went up to the podium and he said, you know what? There was a little bit of tongue in cheek at times, I think, but he said that's a hell of a coach right there. That's a dang good football program. We got beat on all sides of the ball, and he did do his Mia thing. But I know everybody was watching to see what he was going to do when that time came of them taking a beating like that, which I think most people thought it was going to probably happen this week because they just don't have the horses.
Wow. How about this line?
I was tuned in.
How about this line? from Dan Lanning. Today we talk with our pads. The Cinderella story is over. They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. There's a difference. This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood. It's played on the grass. Whoa. Wow, I didn't see that.
You know, Dion got those before the game.
Holy smoke. Good for him.
Oh.
Yeah,
he let it be known. Like this, you know what? To Dan Lanning, this was personal.
Because remember, it's 42-7's the final, but at halftime it was 35-0. Colorado didn't break the 100-yard mark for total offense until the fourth quarter.
Oregon had a fake punt in there somewhere too. They were going for blood. They were making a statement.
Is there any way that Travis Hunter was worth 36 points?
Nope.
No, he was not.
You could tell, guys, that it's not just the Colorado State coach that's sick of it. I think that we love it because we're just in the entertainment business, but these coaches are in the winning business, and I don't think they like the way things are being done. I don't think they like it. The attention that is being applied, and I think that Dan Lanning made that pretty clear with his comments that nobody's really liking what is going on with Colorado right now.
Well, and it's for a coach, and don't get me wrong, he's done plenty on the football field, but what has he done coaching yet? You know, sure, he did some stuff at Jackson State, but that's the thing. Now you're at a P5 school, and what have you done coaching wise now outside? Like, and you're right. Like, I can't imagine coaches are digging it. Like, okay, you haven't done anything yet. Why are you demanding all this?
Well, and now they play USC, so I think they're going to.
Oh, there's such a big target on their back. Like, he put that there, but that target is everybody's licking the chops.
He could still come out of the season looking good if he loses to USC, but they get into this stretch. Like, let's say he beats UCLA. Let's say he beats Oregon State and he beats Washington State. You know, he's not going to beat this Utah team because I think Kyle Whittingham will figure out something, and Kyle's just not going to lose.
No. He'll have that game circled,
we all
too.
know it.
Yeah.
But let's just say that Dion rolls off some wins after USC. He can still come out of this thing with 3 losses and look pretty good.
Let's see here. Oregon attempted 2-point conversions in the first half, faked a punt, went for 2 fourth-down tries in the third quarter when they were up by 35 points.
Yeah,
wow.
Even the mascot Puddles entered the stadium wearing a white cowboy hat and gold sunglasses.
Whoa! Oh, I love it. You know what? Think about this, guys. They know Oregon's like, hey, look. You know, we just lost our conference, and we're headed this way, and they're headed that way, and so screw it. Let's have a little fun with this. That has to be their approach.
Have you seen Coach Prime's? I guess it's his throne. Have you seen his throne that he has at the games?
Yeah.
No.
So they had the I don't know, the 2 equipment managers or interns or whoever they were, like, carrying off the throne at the end of the game. It was a video of these guys just carrying off this throne. I'm like, oh, that's got to be really awkward after you just got your heads kicked in. They have to carry off this throne.
It looks like a literal throne too. Oh, it's super embarrassing.
It is.
It's super obnoxious.
It is. It's like, what are you doing? Come on. Like, don't get me wrong. I like some of this, this flashiness, and it's making me watch. It's, but it's like, oh man, you're getting everything you deserve kind of right now because you're asking for it.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants a piece of you. All right. This one's a beefy one, guys. Geez, Hands. We got to get you home.
Take tomorrow off?
I think we should, man. This is a lot of work.
Should we just run this thing tomorrow?
Yeah, just roll this back a few times and we'll call it good.
Okay.
There's a couple other things I want to say, but Maybe, no, never mind. I'll get myself into trouble.
Don't.
You know where I'm going, though.
I think Hans Olsen's going to be in pretty big trouble anyways. He got pretty loose.
Yeah, I'm getting rumors about what you've been doing over there in Kansas, Hans.
Like what?
Just you're loose, running things loosely.
Take it easy on our guy JJ, okay?
I love JJ. I've had some fun out here in Kansas. I'm not gonna lie, this has been a blast.
JJ apparently loves you and other things too, so that's awesome.
Donuts. Kansas has been fun though. I just wish me luck getting out of here today. Yeah. It was weird. We did see like a tornado thing. It was some of the worst weather I've ever seen in my life.
Did you see cows?
Well, we did not have cows.
Oh, okay. We got cows.
Any good food out there in Kansas?
Yes. So I don't know if you guys remember a BYU player named Nate Mickle.
Oh yeah.
He was a good player back in the day. And then he did sidelines for Greg, I think for 2 years or something. He's out here as a professor at Kansas.
A professor?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a professor here at the university.
Wow.
So Nate took us to a hole-in-the-wall, believe it or not, taco shop here in Kansas that we walked in, and, you always love when you walk into a hole-in-the-wall and there's not a single other white person in the entire place. It's just all Mexicans. And they are enjoying their Mexican food and their tacos and their authentic food. And Nate walked in looking like Norm, and they served us up this El Pastor. I did an El Pastor quesadilla. I did carne asada sopa. It like some authentic stuff, and it was some of the best Mexican food I've ever eaten.
Wow.
See, now you sound like Scotty G eating, Benihana's in Mexico. I did not see you going to Lawrence, Kansas and hitting a taco shop.
You take what's given.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this, Lloyd. It wasn't to save money on an Uber. This was a planned, targeted area that was supposed to be really good food.
No Kansas City barbecue? No, nothing?
No.
Lloyd, you said there's no good barbecue in Kansas City.
I agree with that. And obviously, you know what? I was correct. Because they have better tacos than they do barbecue. So there you go.
Calm it down. One taco shop does not make a better taco place than barbecue. I'm sure.
Did you try the barbecue? Okay, then I'm not wrong.
Oh,
I did not. But now I feel like I better get out there and do it.
Yeah,
I've got a little time. Well, my flight doesn't go out till later.
Let's go. All right, gentlemen. Let's do it again tomorrow. It's your morning after podcast. Hans Olsen, Scott Garrard, Lloyd Cole. Please download. Please tell your friends. Tell them to download. Tell your wife and kids. Get all the cell phones together. All of you, please download this sucker so that Nate Dowdle doesn't fire us. We would super appreciate it. This is your morning after. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Remember, show kicks off at noon. Hans and Scotty, Lloyd Cole. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.